Serial 10. How did a 17-year-old French maiden help American colonists escape British tyranny? In 1428, a young girl claimed to have been instructed by angels from God that she would lead the armies of France to victory against the English invaders. These visions persisted until Joan arranged to obtain an audience with Prince Charles of Ponthieu, who was heir to the throne of France. While Joan was en route to her meeting with the prince, that same prince, Charles of Ponthieu, had serious misgivings about Joan's claim of being told by angels that she would be appointed to lead the armies of France against the English invaders. So he devised a test to see if Joan truly had spiritual powers of discernment. He dressed another man in princely clothing while he himself wore more common clothes to confuse Joan. When Joan entered the room, she saw the man wearing the prince's clothes, but looked away at the other guests until she recognized the prince whom she had never seen before. She pointed him out and knelt down in front of him. The prince was so astonished at Joan's ability to recognize him that he immediately agreed to Joan's request to meet alone with him in private. It was recorded later that in that private meeting, an angel appeared to the prince and instructed him to give Joan command of the French army. The French Dauphin prince agreed. And that is how a 17-year-old French maiden began leading the armies of France to victory against the English invaders. History would record this virtuous young maiden's name as Joan of Arc. During the next 2 years, Joan led the French to miraculous victories over the English army. Joan's divine leadership was rewarded when she stood next to Prince Charles as he was coronated King of France. Joan prophesied that she would be betrayed into English hands and put to death. She further prophesied that within 7 years of her death, the French would drive the English out of France altogether. What difference did it make to God whether the English or the French ruled the people living in Europe? God planned to establish a new American nation that would frame a divinely inspired constitution to guarantee separation of church and state and freedom of religion for all. But first, America would need to free itself from England's grasp and the British Army that was the greatest military power on earth at that time. God knew America would need French allies. Before Joan of Arc, England controlled the British Isles and half of France. Britain's combined territories and population would have made it seem impossible for the American patriots to have won the Revolutionary War 3.5 centuries later. Joan of Arc had a divine calling from God that included 1. Setting an example of moral leadership of the French army. 2. Repelling the English invaders from much of the French land. 3. Sacrificing her life in the service of her God and country. 4. By keeping France free from British control, she opened the way for France to support America later in their war for independence. 5. When America overthrew the British state-run church, America was opened up for freedom of religion. 6. America was now fertile ground for the restoration of the Church of Jesus Christ in preparation for his second coming. How did the Roman Church reward Joan for her prophetic and miraculous military leadership of the French army? The Catholic Church condemned this 19-year-old prophetess to be burnt at the stake for claiming to have spoken with angels. But 489 years later, the Church admitted their mistake and reversed their earlier position, and officially declared Joan a saint instead of a heretic in 1920. This is the statue of Saint Joan of Arc in the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France. The church that should have prayed for prophets was burning them at the stake. Serial 9 Summary 1. In 1428, Joan claimed angels from God told her to lead the French against the English. 2. In 1429, Prince Charles of Ponthieu assigns Joan to assist the French army defeating the English. 3. For 2 years, Joan led the French to miraculous victories over the English army. 4. Much of France believed in Joan's divine calling and gave her credit for the French victories. 5. In 1431, the Catholic Church declared Joan of Arc a heretic and burned her at the stake. 6. In 1920, the Catholic Church reversed their decision and made Joan of Arc a saint. To continue, see Serial 11. What invention in 1450 AD altered the world of religion?